And we are back for game number 2 between Zero and Pusan. Welcome everybody, this is BisuDagger on the microphone presenting GOM TV's Classic Season 4. In this PvZ, it is Zero on the left hand side, and on the right hand side, Pusan, aka Labak, will be representing the Protoss race. It looks like he's taking a few deep breaths, trying to overcome that mentality of being down 1-0. He realizes this is GOM TV, this is a classic. This is a huge tournament where famous players, including the first season of GOM TV's Classic, was the winner Jae Dong over Flash back in 2008, I believe. So there is a lot to live up to here for both these players. I know they believe a lot is on the line. We see that the players are ready. The fans are cheering. The smoke is on its way. We're going to get a bunch of fancy zoom-ins and outs by the GOM TV studio in their fancy camera work. Here we go at that awkward angle. Seeing the StarCraft sign means we are ready to go into game number 2. Now remember folks, this is a best of 3 as the countdown comes on its way. And game number 2 is going to be played on Python, a 4-player map. But both players spawning at that bottom left-hand corner means that the game could get spicy pretty quickly here. So now at the bottom left corner at that 7 o'clock position is going to be our Zerg player Zero. Look at him with his yellow sweatshirt and his wonderful glasses. Meanwhile, at the top left corner at the 8 o'clock position is our Protoss player Pusan. So Pusan, he is feeling in control. Look at him. He's more zoned in than ever before, realizing he has to take game number 2 in order to advance to the round of 4. Everything has to go into this build. So what is he going to present with us? Obviously that pylon clearly going down at the natural base again. Could be going for that Forge Expand, which is ever so careful and safe against Zerg. Meanwhile, Zero, he has not dropped down a spawning pool yet. He could be going for the hatch first. He could be going for that spawning pool, anticipating some sort of early game harassment. But that would be some pretty good game sense here. Meanwhile, his Overlord, and look at that snazzy picture. That girl is definitely a fangirl of Zero, if she thinks that's the cutest picture that she could find to put on her phone. So Gateway, curious, is there going to be another Gateway coming down with this? This could be 2-gate play. Are you guys feeling the nerd chills? And here we go. Yes. So 2 glowing powers of awesomeness out at that natural base. It is going to be a 2-gate harassment build for Pusan. He can expand behind this, but a lot of investment is going to go into those early game zealots, and he's going to try and take advantage of the fact that Zero is going for that natural base. So he took a hatchery first, and now look at this. He has the spawning pool. So the spawning pool, it is at a decent timing. I think that he will be okay, at least as far as needing to build sunken colonies. The beautiful thing about sunken colonies is even without your spawning pool being built, you could get halfway there by building the creep colonies first. So easy peasy as that. But Zero really needs to make sure he scouts out what his opponent is doing. Bringing the Overlord into the main is not going to give him that critical information right away. Now Pusan, he has scouted out on the map. He realizes where he needs to go. Probably going to send that Zealot straight down to the natural and stream it right away, try and do as much attack as possible. The hatchery is about to finish up for Zero at this time too. And Zero's probably going to respawn immediately with Zerglings and try and drop down some creep colonies at the same time. So we could see a drone here over at that 3rd base. It almost looked like he was thinking expand, but there is a Zealot inside of his base now at the natural, and this is where things are going to start to get really intense. Some drones are going to be coming down. Drones and Lings, that's going to be the recipe to success for Zero if he can have some really good control here. So the Lings are out. He only has 4 of them right away here, and not good. These Zealots, they're getting some damage on. The hits are coming down, and a 3rd Zealot. This is going to make things really difficult for Zero. At this time, he doesn't have the army to control against this. He's going to have to catch individual Zealots and try and pick them off. So he's trying to find the best location here, and the best thing that Zero could do is keep these Zealots away from new creep colonies. And that's exactly what he's doing. Pusan, he's allowing his forces to get drawn away from that natural way too far right now. He's going to need to focus them down. Honestly, I would take all 5 zealots and just focus down those 4 colonies and creep colonies right away. But no, instead he's going to try and focus on the zerglings and the drones at the same time. In fact, he's having a lot of trouble trying to get up on top of that ramp. And now the static forces are there inside the natural base, and he's going to have to give up harassing the natural. Then main is the only thing that he can do right now, and it looks like a move out from these drones. And how many drones is he going to lose? He's constantly moving them back and forth, using that drone drill perfectly. And look at that, 0 drones. I repeat, 0 drones were taken out inside of that offense here. Wow. 9 drones to 11 probes, 5 zealots, 10 lings. And it looks like our Protoss player sitting at 28 supply. Meanwhile, the low supply of the Zerg player sitting at 18. Did Pusan do enough harassment, though, to be able to win this game? I do not think so. I think he has way too many drones, sitting on 13 drones right now, and he might be, he's going for an extractor. Okay, so he canceled the extractor. If you guys did not notice, he went for the drone trick because he actually did not have an overlord to be able to produce any more units here. He was actually in a little bit of a bind, so using the extractor trick to get an additional drone before he could get his overlord out. And now he has plenty of lings blocking that ramp, along with 2 sunken colonies. This may be enough to thwart Pusan's attack once more. He's going to have to come in with something a little bit stronger. But instead, he will be going for that nexus behind this, realizing that he could fall extremely far behind in economy if he does not have an additional base. So Pusan, either he's going to have to go all in here or get really defensive against Zero's attacks. 2 zealots are going to be blocking that ramp. It's definitely something that you have to be careful of. Without going Forge Expand, you're not properly walling off that natural base, which means that lings can easily make their way through, especially without the range of those cannons. The photon cannon is so good at picking off lings with their low health as they try and run by. So randomly running lings towards the middle of the map, I wonder if that was enough of a diversion to make Pusan get worried and draw back the zealots just a tiny bit here. They try to make their way towards the natural base, and it looks like Pusan's going to just retreat to his natural and try and survive right here. Zero's bringing the pressure, though. In fact, he's got his lings inside of the natural base. They are focusing down that pylon. That could mean just terrible news for Pusan. He can't afford to have a lack in army production here, and the Zerglings are going to be forcing more units out. A photon cannon is going to be dropped by Pusan. Meanwhile, a 3rd base is going to come down for Zero. So looking at this again, 19 drones as he morphs. Okay, so back to 20 again. 20 drones as he was morphing in a hatchery. 16 Zerglings to 10 zealots. So if you think about it mathematically, it's going to take 3 times the Zerglings to take out that many zealots. So you would need 30 lings. He's about 14 short of being able to go in for a proper attack, but that's not going to stop him from trying to poke in and do harassment. Lings, especially once they get that speed upgrade, are so difficult to deal with. They can go in there, snipe some probes, and just jump out very quickly if you do not have the proper defense. Lair is on its way, but he only has 1 gas. So thinking about what you could do with a 1 gas build is build a Hydra Den. Maybe you go for a Hydra bust. Also, he knows that the weakness is the fact that Pusan is going to be really behind on tech. So if he does decide to go for that late Stargate build, what is the #1 thing he's missing? Observers. So Lurkers could be definitely something that could come into play here. Tons of zealots at that front, reinforcing with those cannons. And what I was pointing out here, he does decide to go for that Stargate tech, which means that he wants to pick off Overlords so he can make his DTs really worth it on the defensive end. Because one thing that you got to do is once you realize that there could be a heavy attack at your natural, you can eliminate that contain as long as you pick off Overlords and properly get your DTs into position to pick off these units. But DTs, they don't really kill Zerglings off that quickly, especially when you have a ton of them. They can get in there, do their attacks very quickly, trying to snipe them some units and then retreat right away. But this is a contain of some sort for Pusan. Basically, he's contained himself by having such a terrible opening that he did not do such a good job. Meanwhile, that 3rd base is up and running. He does have drones mining over at that 3rd. At that bottom right, 5 o'clock position, up to 28 drones. Meanwhile, it's 30 probes, so the economy is pretty even as far as the mining goes for these players. An extractor at the natural. So we did see that the Hydralis Den is there. He could be going for Lurkers still, because adding on that additional gas is going to allow him to go for the gas-heavy Lurkers. The Corsair is out, though. He's going to get the scouting information he needs. He sees Lair, first of all. Hydralis try to take out that Corsair. It's barely going to stay alive. Are there any more Hydras to do attacks here? And then a Hydralisk dead inside the natural base. So he has less to worry about as far as mutas go. And I'm not sure if he will try and defend against mutas. Building a cannon? No? Okay. I thought he was building a cannon inside of his base, but that does look like the Templar Archives. And so Storm is going to be coming out really late, but that is the correct response that you need against Lurkers, is to be able to get those High Templars out so you can storm up your units. Of course, he will still be crippled by the lack of vision until he can get his observers out, so dropping a few more cannons inside of his natural base might be the best thing that Pusan can do right now. Still droning up pretty good. It looks like we can't see the drone count anymore. They decided to change out the units at the bottom right to see what's going on. But 66 supply to 70 supply, that never bodes well for the Protoss player when they're so even in supply against the Zerg. And so 3 Corsairs on the map trying to patrol and pick off the Overlords the best they can, but that's still not a heavy number, as even if you consistently build Corsairs out of 1 starport, it does take quite a while, even with their decent build time. Just trying to produce off 1 building is never quite fun unless you have a hatchery, because you can produce 3 things at a time. The Lurkers are in range of that gateway at the front, both gateways, and they might be able to take them out. That could be a huge blow to Pusan, because he will not be able to reinforce that army very easily if he does not maintain those 2 gateways. He might have to find the time to push out here. Losing an Overlord, that's going to be really crippling for Zero, because he doesn't have any other Overlords over there, and they don't have that speed upgrade yet. But trying to push in here, maybe this could be the killing blow, but no, the Lurkers end up having to get unburrowed and pushed back. One of those DTs getting the nice little swipe off, sniping one of the Lurkers right away. So now Corsairs are trying to patrol inside that natural base. We see that the speed upgrade is done for those Overlords here, and a sunken colony is being built inside the 3rd. In case there is a DT attack, he does have an Overlord over there, so Zero preparing himself for all cases, so that way he cannot fall far behind. Only 1 DT on the map. Meanwhile, 3 Lurkers are finished up. We have 21 Hydras also patrolling the map, along with 13 Zerglings. The Corsairs are running away. There are no upgrades for the air units of those Corsairs. But as far as ground units go, I'm very curious to see what the upgrade position is for Zero. I imagine that +1 should be done for Pusan, but how late was he? Because he didn't get that forge as soon as he could, which means that without that forge first build that the Protoss can go for, they are delayed on their +1 upgrades at the same time too. So no carapace upgrade. And it looks like no armor or plasma upgrades for Pusan either. An engagement here. This may be a killing blow. These Lurkers are getting a lot of shots off here. Those spines do so much damage as the Zealots try to engage here. And it's really hard. If they can't get into the heart of the army, which are those Lurkers, it means that Zero will be able to push forward and eliminate his Protoss opponent here. Things are getting a little dicey as Pusan is getting forced back to the mineral line of his natural base. The photon cannons are still in effect, but he doesn't have observers quite yet. There's a lot of Hydras still being reinforced here. 35 Hydras, in fact, along with 1 Lurker. Meanwhile, 2 High Templar are out, and a storm going off right here. But these storms, they're not going to be quite enough. You can see that the army count is still pretty decently high here, and unless he could get the storms back out, he's not going to be able to defend this. So 3 Hydralisks were about to get really low in health, and he morphs them into Lurkers right away. So really good micro from Zero to recognize that he was going to lose those units to the Zealots, and to morph them with the additional gas that he does have here. So it looks like as these Hydralisks reinforce one more time, there is an observer finally out, but it is just a little bit too late at this time. He will be able to pick off the Lurkers if he can get right in range, but the Hydralisks are just like this meaty wall of DPS that makes it impossible for him to take out the Lurkers. So Pusan, he's looking a little bit disappointed here. You can see that he's taking his hands off the keyboard at this time, and he will be tapping out. GG! A 2-0 victory for Zero means that he will be advancing to the round of 4 of GOM TV's Classic Season 4. As the smoke fires up, this is as close as we'll get to fireworks indoors. And GOM TV going all out with that celebration here. That's very exciting. As you see, the studio is all hyped up, and Zero has finished up his games. A 2-0 victory again for our Zerg player. We will be looking forward to Haya versus Yellow next in a TVZ. And so if you guys are ready for those matches, just hang in here as that cast will be on its way very shortly. Thank you again to GOM TV as we conclude the first round of 8 matchup between Zero and Pusan. A nice little smile there. Thank you guys, and I will see you in the next match.